The African-American barista had spent the last 8 years behind the counter of a small café at the bus station, working endless shifts to scrape together enough to pay rent and bills. But not even the hardest nights had managed to chip away at her kindness. So, when she saw a thin little boy in a wheelchair, cold and soaked with water, she didn't think twice. She opened the door to the establishment, let him in and offered him some warmth and something hot. From the car parked under the flickering sign of a closed workshop, someone was watching everything in silence. It was the boy's father, and that simple and spontaneous gesture was about to set in motion something the woman could never have imagined. The rain fell thick and insistent, bouncing off the Bronx asphalt and transforming the sidewalk in front of the Java Stop café into a slippery trap of puddles. The streetlights cast a flickering light on the peeling walls and graffiti, while inside the bar, it was just past 11 and they were about to close. But Tamika wasn't the type to tell someone to leave. Not if they were cold. Not if the world had already made them feel invisible enough. She was busy cleaning the coffee machine, after 12 hours of non-stop work, when she saw that small figure reflected in the fogged window. A child, huddled in a shabby wheelchair, black hair stuck to his forehead and a light coat that no longer did anything against the cold. He was standing under the bar's flickering neon, clutching a thin and frayed blanket to himself. Tamika furrowed her brow and let the cloth fall on the counter. She threw open the door, shivering when the cold air stung her skin. "Hey, little one," she said with a calm voice, kneeling beside him. "What are you doing out here all alone?" The little boy startled, then raised his gaze. He had clear and wide eyes, bewildered but full of hope. "I'm waiting for my dad," he whispered, almost covered by the sound of the rain. Tamika scanned the street in both directions. Nothing. Only the lights of a flickering vending machine and a few cars passing slowly over the puddles. "And where is your dad?" she asked, trying not to let her growing unease show. The child shrugged, drawing himself even tighter into the blanket. Tamika sighed quietly, her hands tight on her knees. She had seen too many forgotten children, left to wait for empty promises. "You can't stay out here, not in this cold," she said with a reassuring smile. "Come inside. I have something that will make you feel better." The child hesitated for a moment, then nodded quietly. Tamika gently grabbed the handles of the wheelchair and pushed him inside the bar. The warmth welcomed them immediately, along with the aroma of cinnamon cookies and too strong coffee. She positioned him near the radiator, placed a towel on his shoulders and bent down to talk to him. "My name is Tamika," she said sweetly. "And what's your name, sweetheart?" The child sniffled, clinging to his blanket. "Elias." Tamika nodded, satisfied. "Nice name. Are you a bit hungry, Elias?" The child gave a shy nod. Tamika didn't think twice. She went behind the counter, opened the small oven and warmed up 2 slices of homemade bread. A few minutes later, she returned with a steaming plate. Toasted bread with melted cheese and a cup of thick hot chocolate, like her mother used to make for her on winter nights. "This one's on the house," she said, arranging the napkin on his lap. Elias's eyes lit up when he bit into the toast, the cheese stretching in golden strings between his trembling hands. "It's delicious," he whispered, with an amazed smile. Tamika sat in front of him, watching him eat with silent joy. "A hot meal makes the world seem like a slightly kinder place," she said quietly, though inside she felt the usual tightness in her heart. The same one she felt every time she saw someone so small, so fragile, forced to face so much. What she didn't know was that someone was watching them. Across the street, a black Range Rover with tinted windows was parked in the rain, the lights from the bar reflected on the wet hood. Inside, Marcus Reed sat motionless, his gaze fixed on his son. At 48 years old, Marcus was a man who had built a fortune with discipline, silence, and determination. His company, Reed Solutions, was the brain behind the largest digital infrastructures on the East Coast. A world made of numbers and quick decisions, where emotion was a distraction. And Marcus, in his empire, had never allowed himself distractions. Yet now he was there, in silence, watching, remembering what it meant to be seen. Elias was his son, and that woman, that African-American barista with a faded sweatshirt and hands still damp from work, was feeding him for free, in an old café at the station, illuminated by a neon sign that flickered intermittently. Marcus's face hardened. He had gotten stuck in a video call with the legal office in Seoul and had told Elias to wait there for him for just 10 minutes. He certainly didn't expect to find him sitting with a stranger, laughing. He grabbed his cell phone decisively and dialed a number. Clara, he said when his assistant's voice answered. I want you to come immediately to the Java Stop Cafe. No blazer, no heels. Dress simply. You have 20 minutes. Excuse me, Mr. Reed? She asked, confused. Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. Find out who the woman is talking to my son. Then he hung up without adding anything else. Inside, Elias was laughing like he hadn't all day, swinging his legs under the table, with traces of hot chocolate on his chin. Tamika watched him affectionately as she handed him a napkin, shaking her head gently. You have your own way of eating, huh? She said, smiling. Marcus, from the shadow of his car, scrutinized the scene with inscrutable eyes. For him, kindness was just another currency, and once received, it had to be repaid. Always, whether she knew it or not, Tamika Jones had just contracted a debt with the most powerful man she had ever crossed paths with. Tamika dried her hands on her apron, glancing at the fogged windows. The rain continued to flow slowly down the windows, drawing trembling lines. Elias had almost finished his sandwich, his hands now warm, the tension gone from his face. There was no longer that tired fear that had accompanied him entering. Tamika felt a small flame of gratitude inside. She had done something good. Sometimes that was enough. Then the door opened with a sharp blow. A gust of wind entered the establishment, along with a woman dressed in ripped jeans and an oversized sweatshirt, with blonde hair pulled back in a faded Yankees baseball cap. It wasn't her clothing that clashed with the environment, but the way she moved. Too confident, too measured, like someone who's there to evaluate, not to order. Tamika didn't need many clues. She knew how to recognize when someone wasn't entering for coffee. The woman's gaze immediately rested on Elias. Her features softened, but it was a mechanical sweetness, trained. She knelt beside him.
Hey, Sean.
It's time to go, she said with a gentle tone, but with an off note, too polished to be authentic. Elias frowned, wiping the napkin on his lips, as Tamika had taught him. But I haven't finished the chocolate yet, he protested quietly. The woman, Clara, though Tamika didn't know it yet, tilted her head with a forced smile. You can take it with you, sweetie. The car is ready. Tamika felt something sting inside. She had seen too many people take children away without anyone asking questions, and too many adults turn the other way. But she wasn't that type of woman. Not anymore. She crossed her arms and looked at Clara carefully. Do you know him? She asked, not hiding the suspicion in her voice. Clara's smile didn't fade, but her shoulders stiffened imperceptibly. Of course, she replied with a confident tone. I'm his aunt. Tamika didn't react. She turned to Elias. Is that true, sweetheart? Elias hesitated for a moment. One beat too long. His hands gripped the napkin tighter. She came from Dad, he finally said, almost in a whisper. I think I have to go. Tamika didn't move. Inside, every fiber wanted to object, wanted to ask more, seek confirmation. But she knew how it is. A black woman who asks too many questions becomes the problem, even when she's just trying to help. Yet she couldn't let him go like this, empty-handed. She approached the counter, took a cookie wrapped in wax paper and put it in the child's hands. For the trip, she said. Elias's fingers closed around the sweet, and a small smile appeared on his lips. Thank you, Tamika. You're amazing. Tamika returned the smile, but felt a lump tighten her throat. She followed with her gaze as Clara pushed the wheelchair toward the exit, while the atmosphere in the establishment seemed to freeze. Just before crossing the threshold, Clara turned. She said nothing, but her gaze was enough. It was a clear message, a warning. On the other side of the parking lot, the Range Rover's headlights flashed when Clara approached. The rear door opened even before she could knock, and Marcus got out calmly, his imposing figure silhouetted under the flickering light of the bar sign. As soon as Elias was settled in the back seat with his seatbelt fastened, Marcus turned to Clara. So? She pulled down the sweatshirt hood, visibly annoyed. She's sharp, she admitted. She didn't believe the story. She almost asked me for ID. Marcus didn't change expression. But she let him go. She had no choice, Clara retorted with a sharp voice. You know how it works. A black woman asking too many questions to someone like me? They would have made her the problem. Marcus's jaw tensed for a moment. Clara crossed her arms. That one isn't like the others. It didn't need to be said. Marcus had understood the exact moment he saw Tamika run into the rain, without hesitation, to help his son. He had noticed it in the way she spoke to him, as if he mattered. Not like a nuisance, not like a task to manage. He had seen many calculating people, ready to bend to please or gain. Not her. She had done it without knowing anything. And that's exactly what made her an unknown. He got back in the car, closed the door and spoke in a low voice. I want to know everything about her. Name, address, past? Clara asked. Marcus fastened his seatbelt and stared at the rain beating on the windshield. I want her complete file on my desk tomorrow morning. Clara hesitated for a moment. Sir. Tomorrow morning. A sigh, then a nod of confirmation. Received. The Range Rover slowly pulled away from the curb, leaving the small bar behind. The flickering lights of the sign receded in the rearview mirror, but Marcus didn't see them. His thoughts were elsewhere, fixed on Tamika Jones, and on the moral debt he felt he had to her. That evening, Tamika walked home, her sneakers soaked, the freezing wind cutting her skin even under her light jacket. The day's tips were scarce, just enough for next month's rent, but not much more. Yet Elias's smile kept coming back to mind. But there was something that bothered her. A subtle sensation, like a cold current running under her skin. That woman's fake smile. Elias's hesitation before speaking. The way he was taken away. She wasn't an ant. Tamika knew it. She had seen too many blank stares and too many empty smiles to be wrong. She climbed the stairs to her small one-room apartment in an old building in West Baltimore. The heating was almost always broken, the walls thin as paper. She could hear her neighbor arguing on TV. As soon as she closed the door behind her, she leaned against it with a hand on her face. She had learned not to meddle, but this time was different. There was something that didn't add up. She was about to go to bed when someone knocked. Tamika stiffened. At that hour, no one ever came looking for her. She approached slowly, peeking through the peephole. Her breath caught in her throat. A man was there, standing still. Tall, with a long dark coat. Elegant. Too elegant. The kind that costs more than 3 months' rent. A serious face, clear eyes, controlled, as if he already knew her. Tamika didn't open. Who is it? She asked, her voice tense. A brief pause followed, then a deep and measured voice. Marcus Reed. That name meant nothing to her. What do you want? Another pause. To talk. Every fiber inside her told her not to open. But curiosity, the one she had never been able to keep in check, got the better of her. She unlocked the door and opened it just enough to see his face better. He didn't belong to that building, nor to that street, nor to her world. I don't know you, she said coldly. He remained impassive. No. But you know my son. Tamika held her breath. Now she observed him more carefully. The proud posture, the coat still wet, but the shoes immaculate. Every detail said one thing: power. Elias, she murmured. He's your son. He barely nodded. I was there, across the street, last night. A shiver ran down her spine. You were watching. Yes. Tamika pressed her lips together. And so, did you come to scold me for giving him hot chocolate? No. For a moment Marcus's gaze became less cold, more human. I don't believe in charity, he said, but I believe in debts, and in repaying them. Then, without waiting for an answer, he slipped a hand into the inside pocket of his coat, pulled out a sealed envelope and placed it on Tamika's rickety kitchen table. Tamika remained motionless. Her eyes slowly rested on the envelope. Thick, rigid, printed on that elegant paper that conveys only one message. What it contains is worth something, and quite a lot. She swallowed. What is it? A job offer. Tamika's brain froze for a moment. She stared at him, blinking. What? Marcus tilted his head slightly, as if deciding how much patience to give her. Employment. At Reed Global. 6-figure contract. Full benefits. All included. Tamika burst into a short, dry, incredulous laugh. You think a woman like me wants to work for a white man, a billionaire, convinced that an offer is enough to cancel a moral debt? Marcus didn't flinch in the slightest. I don't think you want charity, Tamika. And in fact, that's not what I'm offering you. Hearing her name on that man's lips made her stomach contract. She crossed her arms tightly. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. His voice was calm, firm. He wasn't begging, he was stating. I know you fed my son without knowing who he was. I know you did it without ulterior motives. And I know that today that's rare. Tamika clenched her jaw, trying to ignore how much those words made something vibrate inside her. She looked again at the envelope, placed on her kitchen table like a boulder. And what should I do for Reed Global? Pour coffee for your clients. Marcus's lips moved in a hint of a smile. Quick, imperceptible. No. You'll work directly with me. Mediation. External relations. You have a natural ability to connect with people. I need someone like that. Tamika snorted, meeting his gaze defiantly. You have a company full of managers with masters and million-dollar degrees. You don't need a barista with a diploma gotten between shifts. For the first time, Marcus's expression softened slightly. That's exactly why I trust you more than them. The silence became thick between the two, like fog that gets under the skin. Tamika felt the weight of the offer, the clash between her pride and the bills piled on the fridge, between her dignity and the nights spent counting pennies for milk. Her mother's voice came back to mind. These men only give to take something in return. Never forget that. She pressed her lips together. Why me? Marcus looked her straight in the eyes, and, for the first time, his voice became lower, more real. Because you saw my son. Not my name. Not my reputation. Just him. Tamika's heart had a small flutter. She lowered her gaze, again toward the envelope. Then slowly, she picked it up. I'll think about it, she whispered. Marcus barely nodded. Fine. And he left, leaving her there with that envelope in her hands, heavy with choices that went far beyond money. Because deep down she already knew. She wouldn't just think about it. She would say yes. Her first day at Reed Global seemed like a movie shot on another planet. Everything sparkled too much. The polished marble atrium, the glass walls, the people walking quickly with earbuds and tablets, immersed in a frenzy that smelled of power. Tamika crossed the entrance wearing a blazer bought on sale and worn heels from the thrift market. She felt eyes on her, not of curiosity, but of evaluation, of judgment, but she walked with her head held high. It wasn't the first time someone underestimated her, and she knew well how to respond, by staying on her feet. Marcus was waiting for her in his office. An open space on the top floor, with windows that embraced the entire city skyline and a desk that seemed straight out of a design magazine. He didn't even look up when she entered. He only indicated the chair in front. You're 2 minutes late. Tamika raised an eyebrow and sat down calmly. 2 minutes you enjoyed the view, I imagine. Marcus stared at her with steel eyes. 2 minutes that won't come back. Tamika sighed. Less than an hour had passed, and it was already starting like this. So, do you want me here or not? He leaned back in his chair, studying her. We'll see about that. Before she could retort, the glass door opened and Clara entered, with the usual tablet in hand and the air of someone who has already decided what to think. Tamika immediately noticed the look that sized her up from top to bottom. Not hostile, just methodical, as if she were an experiment to classify, and she had already received her label. Miss Jones, Clara said with a precise voice. Welcome to Reed Global. Tamika met her gaze calmly, a slow smile spreading across her lips. Oh, we've moved to surnames? Fine. Nice to see you again, Miss Clark. For a moment, something in Clara's gaze cracked. Then she turned to Marcus. I've updated the files for the meeting with the Aurora Consortium. She handed him the tablet, carefully avoiding meeting Tamika's gaze again. Do you want me to illustrate the communication office guidelines? Marcus didn't even look up from the paper he was signing. No, I'll handle it personally. Tamika couldn't tell if it was good news or a threat. Clara nodded sharply, but before leaving the room she stopped at the threshold, turning one last time toward Tamika. Good luck, she said quietly. Tamika tilted her head to the side. It didn't sound like a wish. It sounded like a warning. She didn't have time to reflect on it further. Marcus had already re-entered the workflow. No introduction. No moment to breathe. He pushed a file toward her. Aurora Consortium, he said. They're trying to move logistics and the warehouse out of the country. Net savings, drastic cuts. Millions saved. Thousands of jobs gone. Tamika began scrolling through the first pages, feeling a grip in her stomach. And you want me to? What exactly? Convince them not to do it. Marcus didn't even look at her. I want you to do what you do best. Understand people. Tamika leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. Let me understand. You pulled me out of a bar because you think I can convince these billionaires not to act like billionaires? Marcus didn't bat an eye. I brought you here because you see things they don't see. Like what? Tamika asked, narrowing her eyes. He leaned forward slightly. That those who have already lost everything are no longer afraid to fight. Those words hit her straight in the stomach, like something she had always known, but no one had ever said.